It's not surprising that for some of us, because I just read through it or skimmed through it, so for some of us that read Sonic Universe issue 90, I'm sure a lot of us are not surprised that once again Sonic Universe has either stayed a step ahead or fallen a step behind. What I mean by that is the last time Sonic Universe had a major story arc that tied into the main story arc in the main Sonic comic, as far as I know, was Iron Dominion arc. Some might say, well, you also had the Metal Sally arc, or the Mecha Sally arc, and that could count too, but not necessarily. But this is one of those rare occasions where Sonic Universe, with an exception, with something like the Mecha Sally arc at times, and a few others, like let's say the Silver arc, Secret Freedom Fighters, I'm pretty sure that's another one. Well, maybe not the Secret Freedom Fighters arc, but still several other arcs that they've had that tied into the main arcs, main story arcs of the main comic. They've always seemed to stay a step ahead or fallen a step behind. The only time they stayed a step behind was the Iron Dominion arc when they did the Journey to the East or Journey to the West story arc tie-in. That's the only time I think they kind of fell behind, because that story arc in Universe kept going even after the main Iron Dominion story arc had already ended. But most of the time, Sonic Universe to me seems to be more of a step ahead than the main comic, and that does hurt sometimes. Now, some people might say, well, it's not technically their fault, Brian, because they do come out within the same time frame as each other, maybe just, a week or two apart. And that's true, they do, but that still hurts. Because pretty much, when it comes to the ending of these story arcs, if they tie into a main story arc, you're pretty much giving away the finale, the ending of the main arc as it is. You're pretty much giving it away. You're pretty much saying, oh, this already happened, even though you haven't seen it. With Sonic Universe 90, we pretty much now have an idea that, well, as we expected, the Freedom Fighters won. They restored the planet, they defeated Eggman, Chip and Light Gaia Chip the Light Gaia and Dark Gaia have both been sealed away again. So, yeah, pretty much we already got the finale. Pretty much got an idea of how things are going to be. Now, you might say when you look at the final panels for Sonic Universe 90, and you might say, well, when you see Amy with Sonic and Sally and Cream and King Nigel, aka King Max, having a cup of tea, having some tea or just relaxing and all that, and you kind of see Sally blush at the end when Sonic and Amy acknowledge that, hey, they ain't making fun of Knuckles, they're just teasing him. There's a difference. You might interpret that by saying, oh, they're probably trying to tease a Sally Sonic deal there or something. And that's your own interpretation, because it's kind of, with the exception of Cream and Amy, it's kind of strange to see Sally and Sonic, with King Nigel and all that. But, what are you going to do? But anyway, you can deal with that all. You can think one way or another, but the point is, when you have a finale like that, when you have acknowledgments of things happening like that, it's, how do I put it? It basically doesn't really help. Basically, really doesn't help. How do I put this? It basically doesn't help. It doesn't really help out as much as it should. Like I said, it doesn't really help out as much as it should, because it spoils the ending of the main story arc. Because, everybody says, well, how can you hurt sales, right? How can something hurt comic book sales and all that? Well, what could hurt comic book sales is if you already give away the ending in another comic. And again, that's something that Archie Comics has had a problem with when it comes to the Sonic Universe comic or even the main Sonic comic. Sometimes one will stay ahead of the other, and it will spoil, the ending of one arc in favor of another. It doesn't help it in a sense, because it makes the consumer, the subscriber, the buyer, if you will, go like, well, why do I want to read the main comic? I mean, yeah, I want to see how they save the world. That's great, but I pretty much know it's already been done. But this is the one thing that Archie Comics needs to work on, because there are other comic book publishers that do the same thing. There are comic book publishers that do the same thing, folks. There's no doubt about that. But there are also comic book publishers that keep things consistent. In other words, they keep things together in a timely manner so that one comic doesn't spoil the ending of an arc from another. Like, let's say Marvel or DC decided to do a major story arc which was mainly taking place in a Justice League comic, but one of the tie-in stories to that main story arc in Justice League took place in Wonder Woman, and at the end of Wonder Woman's tie-in story, or the tie-in story arc, it pretty much would spoil the ending for the Justice League story arc. Now, it wouldn't help sales, because pretty much, even though you'd want to get the final issue of the Justice League arc to see how it ended, it wouldn't really help much, because in a sense, people would be like, well, I just found out what happened, in a sense, in the final issue of Wonder Woman that was published or released a few weeks before. So why should I even bother reading this? Just so I could see how it happened? It's one of those situations. It's one of those situations that doesn't help one or the other. But like I said, there are comic book publishers that have been more consistent about it, have been more organized about it. In other words, they make sure to keep each comic that ties in with another, as far as a story arc goes, or a main story arc goes, they make sure to keep them constantly even so that there are no spoilers, so that you have to read both to get the full in-depth story. See how one event in the tie-in story ties into the event of the main story. And again, that's something that Archie Comics needs to work on, because, it's one thing to do it with your main story arc, like what they did with Iron Dominion, and then have your universe spin-off book kind of show you for the next month or next few months how one event that basically began at the end of one issue of the Iron Dominion arc ties into it, how it all came to be. It's one thing to do it that way, which is understandable, but it's another to try to keep it even so that there are no surprises, so that you have to read both issues to find out what happened or how it happened. I mean, if I'm Archie Comics, I try to focus on releasing both Sonic Universe, and the main Sonic comic at the same time. Not within weeks of each other, but within the same time, so that way both people can get said issues and they can properly read the main comic and then go off and read Universe to see how it ties in. So, to me, that's what they need to do, especially when it comes to these major story arcs. Because if they always stay a step ahead with one comic over the other, it's going to hurt them. Because even though, people might want to see how one event unfolded, in one issue, they may not be too much in a hurry to see it happen because they already know it's happened just by the little bits of spoiler they get at the end of another comic. So the way I look at it, as far as Archie Comics goes, is they need to fix this. You can't have one Sonic comic stay ahead of the other because it's going to spoil things. Maybe it's good that they're doing this 25th anniversary comic, this Genesis of a Hero comic after Shattered World, after Panic in the Sky, because at least it doesn't tie into anything in Universe, and Universe is its own comic. So maybe by 2017 they can at least have it worked out to where both Universe and the main Sonic comic can be neck and neck, and basically, if they have to go together for another main story arc, in the end there will be no spoilers. There won't be any hey, I already know they won because I read it and I found out in this comic. It'll be neck and neck. So, evened out, more consistent. But, so, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So hopefully 2017 will be a better year, and Archie Comics will hopefully try to be more consistent with the releases of the comics like Sonic and Sonic Universe, and make sure that they're at even pace and that one comic doesn't spoil the other. But we'll just have to wait and see. So that's all I'm going to say, but it seems that Archie Comics hasn't learned the lesson. And I think, as the title is probably going to say, Sonic Universe 90 somewhat spoils the finale for Panic in the Sky. Or if I could fit it in there, I could say SU number 90 spoils Panic in the Sky finale. Or somewhat spoils Panic in the Sky finale. So, that's all I'm going to say, folks. Let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like, and I am out.